Hello and welcome to the Music of Stillwater. Tonight we're going to be interviewing Red Steagall and listening to some of his music that made him famous. But first, a word from the people that make this show possible. Welcome back to the Music of Stillwater show. Last Saturday evening, David Free, the KSPI News Director, and myself traveled out to the Cimmaron Country Ballroom to interview Red Steagall and his band, who were in town to play in the Cimmaron Country Ballroom, and it was quite an evening with about 1,000 people turning out at the Cimmaron Country Ballroom to hear Red Steagall and his band. David Free accompanies me in this interview because David grew up in the same area that Red Steagall and his band, a lot of his band, are from, which is Borger, Texas. David adds a lot of color to the questioning this evening, as I'm sure you'll find out. Also, during the evening, we noticed that the tape recording is not as good as it could be because of the conditions inside the band's bus. We joined Red Steagall after his sets on stage outside in the band's bus, which the band uses to travel around the country and play for as many people as possible. But the recording quality has a lot of background tape noise. I hope you'll excuse that on the Music of Stillwater show this evening, and I'm sure you're waiting to hear what Red has to say. Let's hear.
It started a long time ago. The Texas Panhandle, around cattle, around the western atmosphere. It's not urban. No big movie put you there. How much does that play in your upbringing, playing music?
I'm sure that wherever you're raised and the kind of environment you're raised in has a drastic effect on what you do with your life, whether you're a cowboy singer or whether you're a pop singer or whether you're selling shoes or selling insurance or whether you're a television or radio broadcaster. Your environment has an awful lot to do with your likes and dislikes, and so you gravitate to things that you have either a common knowledge of or an affinity for. I grew up in the cow country, West Texas. I also grew up in the oil patch. So I had a mixture of both. I understand working people. My love for the cowboys and the cowboy way of life is very deeply rooted, and will probably continue to be the driving force for the rest of my life. We were discussing earlier tonight about superstars. All the guys we were sitting around here before we went to work. You know, what really is a superstar? What we consider superstars are headliners, people who can draw 50, 60,000 people to a concert, to a normal, simple concert. I doubt very seriously that my career will ever achieve those heights. But what I do hope is that when I finish my career, and that'll be when y'all throw clods on top of me, that I've left something that somebody will listen to and say, hey, that's good, and I identify with that, and doesn't that song paint a pretty picture? And that's what my goals are. That's what I strive to do, to present my art form to anybody who wants to listen to the best of my ability every time I present it.
One thing that was in the words to one of your songs, for all our cowboy friends, at the beginning of the album, and it said, whether you wear a pair of faded Levi business suit or a pair of faded Levi's, there's a little bit of cowboy in us all. And also through that entire album, is most everyone, there are people who go to the National Finals Rodeo in Oklahoma City that probably have never seen a rodeo before. Are you commissioned by the PRCA? Were you to put that album out?
No. No, that album was a labor of love. There's a whole lot of cowboy in a bunch of us. And I've thought a lot of times that if I really had never gotten involved in the music business, that I could be a cowboy on a ranch somewhere and spend the rest of my life working for somebody else's brand. Because I love the cowboy that much. I respect those people that much. The rodeo cowboys and the rodeo way of life is very closely akin to the way we make a living. Because we're all gypsies. We like to wake up in a new world every day. We like for things to change in our life. We don't like anything that's routine. We like challenges. We like to back off and say, hey, I did that, and very few people have the ability nor the desire to do that. That's what rodeo is all about. It's a competitive sport. You compete more with an animal than you do with your fellow competitors. It's a very strong fraternity, very small fraternity, and It's not a vocation, it's not a profession, it's a way of life. And I was not commissioned by the PRCA to do that album. I did it because I wanted to put something back into a way of life that's been awfully good to me. And talk about people who are my friends, some of my closest friends are in the rodeo business. And I think that the industry as a whole deserves a tremendous amount of recognition and respect it doesn't always get. And we don't know whose fault that is. We hope that someday all that will be rectified and the rodeo cowboys will be just as important athletes as a top golfer or a #1 tennis player or the head coach of the best football team in America.
You're born with lots of soul if you're from Texas, and I'm proud to say that I'm her native son. I learned to pick and sing all the songs that made her famous, and I'll make her proud of me before I'm done. Call me Texas Red, and I'll stand up and sing, and I'll make you feel that you're from Texas too. Call me Texas Red, and get out on the dance floor, and I'll sing you another round of Texas blues. There's a lone star that's a-shining above my shoulder. I was born with country music in my bones. Love to hear those fiddles sing to the beat of Texas swing while I'm dancing with my road to San Antonio. Call me Texas Red, and I'll stand up and sing, and I'll make you feel that you're from Texas too. Call me Texas Red, and get out on the dance floor, and I'll sing you another round of Texas blues. Call me Texas Red, and I'll stand up and sing, and I'll make you feel that you're from Texas too. Call me Texas Red, and get out on the dance floor, and I'll sing you another round of Texas blues.
Your recording career began a long time ago. What was your first hit, and where did it go from there?
First record that we had of any consequence was in '69. It was Party Dolls and Wine. Since that date, in '69, we've had 26 records in a row in the charts. I've never been out of the charts since '69. It just so happens at this point in time we're not on a record label. The record business is pretty tough right now. And the ones of us who weren't selling a tremendous number of records have we've been deposited on the stands. But we've got a new album that we're going to do sometime. Probably be released in the fall, be a television package of cowboy songs, and I'm really excited about doing that. But after Party Dolls and Wine, we had several releases that really didn't make a whole lot of noise, but they were chart records, and back in the days when there was a top 50 chart primarily in the country business. So we had a lot of airplay, and we sold some records. And in '72, Somewhere My Love was a big record for us. Sold more than any other record. And then we didn't have another big one until '75, which was Lone Star Beer and Bob Wills Music. And the next year we had a top 10 record with Someone Cares for You. And then the rest of them have been in the 20s and 30s.
What you mentioned earlier, you haven't mentioned the record business changed a little bit. It's kind of hard to get into top 50. What seems to be the problem?
The sales approach, I think, is the problem. Because I don't think we expose the records to the folks who want to buy them. I think the record industry is tuned in to selling to major rag jobbers in large metropolitan areas. I doubt very seriously that the folks in Stillwater, Oklahoma can find all the albums of all their favorite country acts. And that's a problem that we've had since the beginning of time. And I don't have the answer. If I did, I'd be the president of a major record corporation, because everybody needs to find that answer. The rack jobbers buy only what has a fast turnover, and those pieces of product are primarily the acts who stay in the top 15 in the charts. And they're mostly the people who are doing whatever is happening in today's market, which leaves the purists at the bottom end of the scale. So when you eliminate the purists, in my estimation, you eliminate the true art form, because all you have left are people who are trend chasing. And it changes every week.
Trend chasing, you're talking basically, I guess, about, don't want to, well, I'll call names, yeah, John Travolta, that brought to the American public a bit of country. And
no, wait a minute, I'm going to disagree with that right off the bat.
Okay.
Everywhere I go, somebody's saying, well, how has Urban Cowboy changed America's music? Urban Cowboy didn't have one single bit of effect on America's music. They did Urban Cowboy because country music and the cowboy way of life was the biggest thing that was happening at the time. The movie didn't have any effect on the way of things that were happening. Things that were happening that gave them a reason to do what they thought would be a very successful movie. As a result, it was so false and so phony that the people who really know about that way of life were turned off by it, and the people who didn't know about it still didn't care about it. As a result, it was not a financially successful picture. So there have been some acts emerged from that particular soundtrack that have made some noise, and hopefully will continue to. Mickey Gilley has a career that's just unbelievable because of that movie. Johnny Lee was virtually an unknown until that point in time. But I don't think it really made any difference in the career of Eddie Rabbitt or Billy Crash Craddock or people like that who were coming into that scene. We know it didn't have any effect on Barbara Mandrell's career or Kenny Rogers or Don Williams or
Red Steagall.
Or anybody else who's been recording for a long time and been in the business for a while. That movie didn't have any effect on their lives. Just Mickey and Johnny, basically, and that's about it.
On the career side, do you think it might have had an effect on lives of people that lived in, say, Stillwater, Oklahoma, or Borger, Texas, or Tucumcari, New Mexico, or maybe New York City, and
as I said a while ago, I firmly believe that the Urban Cowboy did not have any effect on the lives of Americans anywhere except Mickey Gilley and Johnny Lee, because Justin Boot Company was already shipping every pair of boots they could make to the East Coast. Resist All hats was already, they were a year behind in production already before they ever started filming that film. There were new shirt companies popping up all over the United States, and the demand for the Western clothing was just unbelievable, and that had started at the markets 2 years before that movie was ever started.
Red, that's what I wanted to ask you was if we were to place this sort of thing happening in some year or some date, when do you think country and Western really started to take off in such a sense?
I think it was a very gradual thing. And there are two people that I attribute the sudden rise of the popularity of country music. And when I'm speaking of this particular style of country music, I'm talking about exposing an art form to people who had never listened to it before. There are two people responsible for that, Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings. They brought people into a country music audience who had never been there before. And when that happened, that left the door wide open for folks like Barbara Mandrell. George Jones was all of a sudden an overnight sensation to folks who had never listened to our art form before. Kenny Rogers followed that with probably the greatest impact any artist has ever had on appealing to the mass audiences. We can go on and on. Don Williams appeals to those audiences today. Johnny Cash still appeals to the same audiences Johnny appealed to 20 years ago. And people in all walks of life have appreciated Johnny and will always do that. Glenn Campbell and Mac Davis had somewhat of an effect, but nobody opened the doors like Willie and Waylon.
I was born in Louisiana, down on the old bayou, raised on shrimp and catfish and my mammy's good gumbo. I got that rambling fever, said goodbye to Ma and Pa, crossed the old Red River, son, and this is what I saw. And I saw miles and miles of Texas, couldn't count 'em if I tried. I saw miles and miles Gonna live here till I die. Cradle of the West. Just ask any cowboy son, he'll tell you it's the best. Met a Texas beauty, then got friendly with her paw. I looked into her big blue eyes, and this is what I saw. I saw miles and miles of Texas, couldn't count them if I tried. I saw miles and miles of Texas, gonna live here till I die. I settled down in Cowtown, there's not much more I can tell. That blue-eyed Texas beauty, son, has kept my heart aroused. Through with all my rambling, it's a lazy life for me, 'cause she owns miles of Texas just as far as you can see. She owns miles and miles of Texas, couldn't count them if I tried. She owns miles and miles of Texas, gonna live here till I die. Gonna live here till I die.
Where do you see country music going in the next, well, it's hard to say, 5 years, 10 years?
At this point, I think that we've educated a whole new generation of country music fans. I think that just like in the clothing business, we reached a peak, and I really believe that some of it will taper off. I don't believe there will be as large an impact. But as long as this generation lives, country music will still have the same amount of popularity that it does today. There'll be another art form that'll come along. There's got to be another musical revolution in America within the next 10 years. There's just got to be. It's time for it. And it's happened time and time and time again, and it's not going to stop. But the number of people who listen to country music today will not change. I mean, it will not go down. It's going to increase. But it's not going to be as drastic a rise as it has been in the past 5 years. I really don't think.
You don't see country music following a path, and I'm not meaning to compare the two genres together, but let's say disco, we saw a tremendous rise in disco music all of a sudden, and I think we're seeing a tremendous death in disco music. We go straight down. You don't believe that country music will go through such a tremendous rise and then go through, say, such a dip that we're seeing happen to disco music?
I don't think there's any correlation whatsoever, and the reason I say that is, and I try real hard not to be prejudiced when I tell you about these things, because I enjoy a lot of different styles of music, and I've been in the music business for a great number of years, and I've been involved in several forms of America's music, and I've seen these things rise and fall. I firmly believe that disco is not an art form. I believe that disco is simply a presentation of a particular beat and a particular type of lyric construction. I do not believe it's an art form. Country music is an art form, the same way gospel is, and western swing. Rock and roll is an art form. Rockabilly music in the 50s and early 60s was a presentation of country and rock and roll. So it was a presentation rather than an art form of its own. Well, of course, I want to see country music survive as it is and progress. And I'd like to think that every brand new baby that's born is going to grow up to be a country music fan, because I love it that much. Not only because that's the way I make my living, because I truly believe in the art form. I believe that country music is the voice of the people. I believe it talks about honesty and human frailties and human strengths. If it doesn't make any difference whether you're selling insurance in Boston, Massachusetts, or whether you're working cattle on a ranch in Oklahoma, you have the same basic human desires and needs. And country music talks about you if you'll take the time to listen to it. It's basically a lyric-oriented art form. It has three roots. the hill country music of the Appalachian Mountains, which basically involve the use of the banjo and the fiddle, the gospel sounds of the Negro South, which the basic instrument there was the piano and the bass guitar, the bass instrument, and the Western swing attitude that Bob Wills invented in the Southwest. Those three art forms together form what we call America's country music. And I think I know it'll always be here. It's the true folk music of America. Some folks will say the blues are the true folk music, It's the difference of opinion. Thank goodness there is a difference of opinion, because it'd be awful sad if we was all sitting around in our Chevrolet smoking Lucky Strikes and drinking Jack Daniels.
Do the lyrics, and of course this is an old question, do the lyrics come first? Does the music come first? Does it come together? What kind of process goes on in the head of yourself when you hear a song and you're putting together? Is it mostly a collaborative process with your band, or what goes on?
I try, excuse me, I try at all times to write the music and the lyrics together, because a good song is a good marriage of lyrics and melody. However, I'm more of a poet than I am a musician. I love to play guitar, but I play open chords primarily. I don't know anything about music theory. I don't know one note from another. I use very few minors and very few sixths and augmented chords and things that really develop a tremendous amount of movement in music. And so when I do write, I primarily write the lyrics first in my mind, and then try to find a melody that satisfies the direction that I'm trying to take with that particular lyric.
She was queen of the social world in San Antonio. I was a cowboy who called El Paso home. We met and fell in love at a rodeo dance. Right from the start, our love didn't have a chance. 'Cause put a West Texas cowboy next to satins and lace. Blue jeans with velvet are just so out of place. But I still love her so, and it's a crying shame you can't mix El Paso wine with San Antonio champagne. She married a doctor called San Angelo. See her now and then when I work the rodeo. She's still just as pretty as she was back then. I wish her the best, even though she's with him. 'Cause put a West Texas cowboy next to satins and lace. Blue jeans with velvet are just so out of place. But I still love her so, and it's a crying shame you can't mix El Paso wine with San Antonio champagne. You can't mix El Paso wine with San Antonio champagne.
Welcome back to the Music of Stillwater. Tonight we're interviewing Red Steagall in the band's bus right outside the Cimmaron Country Ballroom.
When the band performs and you're performing on stage, do you have two separate shows that you do as far as when you're in a concert situation and when you're in a dance situation, and how do you go about it?
Well, sure. When we're playing a dance, we try to make sure that everybody stays on the dance floor. If we're doing a concert, we have it pretty well laid out, but yet we're flexible enough that if something isn't working, we can go another direction. Normally, the basis would be an accurate because it was just not good at song. And so, but if we're going to do a concert, we might do anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes.
You're here in Stillwater quite a bit, almost as much as you are at KECAP, West Texas State. You like livestock shows?
Sure.
More than say, a set concert where people dress up and do that?
No, I don't. I can't say that I like one particular kind of thing any better than I do others. Because I like to play wherever people want to listen. We do play a lot of livestock-related type things like rodeos and horse sales and cattle sales. We're playing for the Western Heritage auction of art and cattle and horses in May. We do a lot of those kind of things. And I enjoy them, but I also love to watch folks dance.
Where is the band yourself heading up through the next year? Do you know well enough in advance? Do you know just about where you're going to cover in the country? I know you cover a lot of miles. I know you're all over the place, but generally you know what areas you're going to be hitting.
We're not fortunate enough, or haven't progressed to the point where we can say, in the month of May, June, and July, we're on tour. That doesn't happen with us. We go wherever the work is. So, primarily, in the wintertime, we work clubs. In the summertime, we work rodeos and fairs.
That brings something else. Talking about clubs. I don't think, from what I can remember, Danny didn't. I know. You didn't, as far as I know. Play a lot of honky-tonks around Borger, Sanford, Bridge, Stenant, wherever, Amarillo. You didn't play the all-night dives or the Playhouse or what have you. Is there a secret to stay out of those places, or?
No, not necessarily. I just don't think that Danny or I, either one, had the desire to put a band together and do a set-down job in a honky-tonk. I don't think that was what either one of us wanted to do. We both spent a lot of time working as a single act, sitting on a stool with one single microphone and working to small lounge crowds. We both did that. And when, in my formative years, was the time of the hootenanny and the folk songs. And I was working for Shamrock up in Colorado and Utah and Idaho and Wyoming. And I played a lot of small lounges and folk houses, coffee shops, and those kind of things. And all I did was play cowboy songs. You tell them they were folk songs and they ate it up.
Take me back to Texas, I don't want to go to Tulsa. That woman made a fool out of me. Take me back to Texas, I don't want to go to Tulsa. Tulsa brings back bad memories. Had a woman up in Tulsa and I thought she really loved me. Lord, I tried my best to make her happy, but the more I tried to satisfy that woman and her dreams, the bigger fool she made out of me. Take me back to Texas, I don't want to go to Tulsa. That woman made a fool out of me. Take me back to Texas, I don't want to go to Tulsa. Tulsa brings back bad memories. If I ever see that woman, Lord, I hope it's down in Texas. They'll hang a man for murder up in Tulsa. I'd break her neck, but what the heck, by noon I'll be in Dallas, and I won't have to see her face again. So take me back to Texas, I don't want to go to Tulsa. That woman made a fool out of me. Take me back to Texas, I don't want to go to Tulsa. Tulsa brings back bad memories. Tulsa brings back bad memories.
Do you find that there's certain areas where you're much more popular than in other areas?
Oh, definitely. We don't work 3 days a year east of the Mississippi. Most of the time when we do, it's a trade show or a rodeo. When I say a trade show, we work farm shows for the Heston Corporation. I do all of their ads and all of their commercials and dealer films, those kind of things.
Do you think that's a function of airplay or any kind of exposure to the population?
I think it's a function of market identity. We've had a lot of airplay east of Mississippi. But we never had a market profile in that part of the country. Primarily because we spent so much time in the West and developed an identity with the and the Western swing music, which is important in the Southwest, that folks in the Northeast could care less about it. And when you do present Western swing music in those markets, on the other side of the Mississippi, they think all you're doing is copying the big bands of the East and using steel guitars and fiddles, which is not true because it's a separate art form, but they don't understand that.
When I first came aboard the band's bus, I noticed one of the band members walking out the door with a copy of a Native American text in his hand, a book on Native Americans. And right here on the table, I noticed a copy of Native Americans. We were talking a little earlier about some of your interests that you have in it. Exactly, and I know somebody else in the band has an interest too, and you're reading and obviously dialoguing about Native American history and culture and so on. What's the interest surrounding all this? The involvement that you have with Native American history?
Nothing in particular, except that when I was a little kid, I think I really wanted to be an Indian. I really wanted to have lived 150 years before it. And I spent all my spare time in the Canadian river bottom, rabbit hunting and trapping coyotes and bobcats, and went camping every weekend. Whether it was rain, sun, snow, it didn't make any difference what was happening. And I was out hunting arrowheads, and I knew every place along that river where there had been an Indian camp. And I just always, I like that way of life. The older I get, the more I'm interested in what happened to the people and what's happening to them now. And their history, their philosophy, their way of life. I've learned an awful lot from American Indians and the way they lived with nature, the way they respected each other and each other's rights and feelings. An awful lot to be learned from.
I think there's a possibility of hearing some music from Red Steagall in the future concerning subjects like this, perhaps?
I really
think there's an interest there for that?
If there was something in particular that really struck me, I could write about it. I'm not a craftsman. I can't say today I'm going to write a song about this subject, sit down and do it, make it worth listening to. I write strictly on impulse. I may write a song in 5 minutes, or I may have one line that haunts me for a year. But when it does happen, it happens in a hurry, and it's spontaneous.
Texas, and in Oklahoma heard their western swing. Miles of folks would travel made no difference, 'cause they came to dance and hear those fiddles sing. They took their songs to the coast of California, and in New York City heard their fiddles cry. Now the world will not forget the Texas playboy, 'cause the songs they played and sang will never die. And now Bob's got a swing band in heaven, and they play while sleepy's banjo ring. Then the Lord said, Bob, I brought you Keith and Jesse. Now they fiddle while old Tommy Duncan sings. sing. There's a steel guitar with silver strings for Leon. A piano waits for Al with golden keys. The rims of Smokey's drums are made from halos. And there's a bow with angel hair for Johnny Lee. Of course, our band is not complete without a bass man. And someday Joe Frank's bass will fill the holes. The angels wait to sing with Eldon's sweet guitar, and Gimbel's fiddle lays beside the throne.
What does Red Steagall do for relaxation when you want to totally relax? You mentioned that you trapped and when you were a kid and you hunted and so on. You still do that?
I don't hunt much anymore. I like to get out, but I really don't care too much to hunt. I occasionally go to South Texas, make home a white-tailed deer. I like venison and like deer sausage, but I don't just like to go out anymore and just don't like to just kill things. But I spend a lot of time with my horses. I like to play golf, play a lot of tennis in summertime, and racquetball in the fall or in the winter. But my horses are primarily my therapy.
You never shot any rabbits.
I've shot a bunch of rabbits. And
Albates or wherever.
I used to spend a lot of time. But the older I get, the less I care for it.
Me too. Anything else? I can't think of anything.
A new album in the works.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
This is a television project we're doing. I don't know exactly when we'll release it or when we'll start merchandising, but it's a collection of cowboy songs, all different kinds of types of cowboy songs. From the ones that don't have any idea who wrote them to Gayle Gardner songs, which most of them are novels, like Way Up High in the Sierra Peaks. And if you're not a real cowboy song fan, you wouldn't have any idea what I'm talking about. Songs like The Zebra Done and Little Joe the Wrangler, Strawberry Roan, some more Curly Fletcher songs. And we're going to do probably 10 songs that I've written, at least 10. Most of them about rodeos. But I have some other songs that are like Horses and Wars, is about the working cowboy. I wrote one just the other day called Never Knew There's 5 Horses Shy. That doesn't mean anything unless you're a cowboy related. It means that you don't ride another man's string, and this cowboy was gone, and so we've turned his string out to pasture. He's not going to ride them anymore. Everybody else has all the horses they need.
Cow camp is busy, the big herd's uneasy, dark skies rolling in me. Rolls him a tight one, ties down his sweater, slaps at some dust on his knee. He lays out a flat loop, throws at the piebald, laughs as the old pony does. Then the third time he caught him, guess the old pony let him. Game's over, he started to cuss. Now the night watch is his, with his face to the wind. He nods as he rides past the boss. He's humming a song that his granddaddy taught him on the back of that old piebald horse. And he rides off to Cowtown when the fall work is over and goes straight to the Two Minis bar, where he dances till morning with the prettiest ladies and tells them stories about horses and wars. The cow camps are empty, the land's full of fences, the cowboys feed hay in a truck. The chuck wagon stands in a museum in Kansas, rotten and gathering dust. He rocks in an old chair his granddaddy made him when the plains were still open and free, and his leggings still hang on a nail by the bed. Gave his spurs to his grandson last spring. Then he rolls him a tight one and stares at the wall at a picture of him and the boss. For a while he jumps cattle out of sagebrush and cedar on the back of that old piebald horse. Then he dreams he's in Cowtown, a dancing till morning with the girls at the Two Minis bar. Then he throws down on a whiskey with a couple of cowboys and tells lies about horses and wars. He's seen in his lifetime a gas-powered jitney, then a picture they sent back from Mars. But all that he prays for is to ride off to glory on the back of that old piebald horse. While he dreams he's in Cowtown, a dancing till morning with the girls at the Two Minis bar. Then he throws down a whiskey with a couple of cowboys and tells lies about horses and wars.
We're back on the Music of Stillwater with an interview tonight with Red Steagall outside the Cimmaron Country Ballroom last Saturday.
Do you see the Grand Ole Opry coming back into where people can sit down and listen and watch?
Certainly, the Grand Ole Opry is a great institution, but until they change their format, their form of government, it's going to be real hard for them to get new acts on the Opry. Because in order to be a member of the Opry, if I wanted to join the Opry, I would have to appear on that stage a certain number of Friday or Saturday nights a year. And I can't take time out from my schedule to go all the way to Nashville and perform on the stage of the Opry. There was a time when if you didn't belong to the Opry, you didn't work. Because they totally controlled country music. And Bob Wills Bob changed that, and then there were a lot of changes that happened on the West Coast. Buck and Merle had an awful lot to do with that. But the Opry is a great institution. And it's probably the starting point for some of the greatest country music stars that ever lived.
Will Red Steagall be in Carnegie Hall?
Beats the fool out of me.
Answer that.
You've seen the workings of the music business in Nashville. You spent time in Nashville, and I believe you said you lived in Nashville for several years there. Is that right?
Yes.
And when you compare that with the music business on the coast, what differences do you see in the music business and the machinery, the way it operates in Nashville and the way it operates on the coast?
Really, when Ken Nelson left Capitol Records in Hollywood, the country music community on the West Coast pretty well died. Buck Owens had a great run in Bakersfield, but when Buck's tenure was over, Merle isn't that much of a businessman as far as putting talent together and recording and all those things. Merle takes care of his own business and does a real good job of it, but he's not an entrepreneur like I barely got that out, like Buck. And as a result, that whole scene out there is pretty well dwindled away. Nashville was the starting grounds for all that. And Owen Bradley built his first studio on 16th Avenue South, and Chad Atkins, Bill Justice, Jim Denny, Hubert Long. All of those people were really the driving forces in the country music community in Nashville. And like I say, except for Bob Wills and what was happening on the coast, it was pretty well locked in to a particular group of people. And those people, that whole business evolved around the Opry. That doesn't happen today. Very few of the acts out on the road belong to the Opry.
What about Tulsa? Tulsa is...
Jim Halsey has done a tremendous job in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa is a beautiful city, and a lot of very talented and wonderful people live in Tulsa. But to think that the music business community would spring up in Tulsa would be not any different from it springing up in Denver, Colorado, for example, or any other major city where there's a lot of country-oriented folks. There has to be a tremendous emphasis on the music industry, or the entertainment industry as a whole, for it to really come to the forefront in any community. There are several things that have to happen. You have to have a large talent pool, both creative and technical. You have to have a large executive talent pool, and you have to be able to get there in a hurry and get out to any other major city in the world. That exists only in 3 or 4 places in the United States. Dallas-Fort Worth area happens to be one of them. There's a lot of emphasis on the entertainment business in that particular area right now, and it could become a major entertainment complex in the next few years.
We left Southern California. She cried for several days. She didn't want to leave her hills and home. She said the desert's calling me and the dry winds cry my name. She said the rain don't ever stop in Oklahoma. But I said I'll show you Turner Falls and the green Arbuckle Mountains, where the grass grows stirrup high most all year long. She said I won't be happy there, I'll miss my desert mornings. She said the rain don't ever stop in Oklahoma. I bought her pretty dresses and yellow ribbons for her hair. I never made her smile or feel at home. She's found a diesel driving man headed west to California. The desert called my sweet Diana home. I'm standing here alone in these green Arbuckle Mountains, where the grass grows stirrup high most all year long. But I can't see their beauty with my eyes this full of tears. I guess the rain won't ever stop in Oklahoma. And I bought her pretty dresses and yellow ribbons for her hair, but I never made her smile or feel at home. She's found a diesel driving man headed west for California. The deserts call my sweet Diana home. Yes, the desert call my sweet Diana home.
as Las Vegas, have you gotten a lot of invitations to come to Las Vegas? Have they gone from Judy Garland?
There's a little bit of country music in Vegas, but not very much, and there never will be. The reason for that is that people would rather see a review like Hello Hollywood or Hallelujah Hollywood or one of those girly shows than they had sit and listen to a country entertainer or even a pop entertainer these days. Most of the major showrooms are going to reviews because it's more profitable. They have less overhead. Entertainers have gotten to the point where the ones who really draw the houses, they cost an arm and a leg. And the economy is structured so at this point that even people who have the money to go to Las Vegas and gamble are still going to be careful about how they spend their entertainment dollar. Reno and Lake Tahoe, there's a lot of country acts in Reno. Always have been, and always will be, because it draws a different kind of crowd.
If you lose your hair, you can't get a transplant.
If I were to lose my hair, I would figure it was something that is supposed to happen. People are always complaining about getting old. I'm looking forward to it, because the alternative is one that I don't even want to talk about. Super. I don't think there's any danger of me losing my hair, though.
Hang on, feeling I'm coming down with you again. This time she's more than just a friend. She's all that matters. Hang on, feeling there ain't no way I'm gonna let you slip away from me again. I'm hung up in that warm and tender feeling they call love, and I ain't even tried to get away. That old familiar feeling I kept locked out of my life, but this time around I'm going to make it stay. Hang on, feeling I'm coming down with you again. This time she's more than just a friend. She's all that matters. Hang on, feeling there ain't no way I'm gonna let you slip away from me again. It's so good to have a woman who can keep me satisfied. She don't care who I was or where I've been. She don't make no obligation out of give and taking love. She just opens up the door and I walk in. Hang on, feeling I'm coming down with you again. This time she's more than just a friend. She's all that matters. Hang on, feeling there ain't no way I'm gonna let you slip away from me again.
Is there something you'd like all your fans that I'm sure are listening to the radio show tonight that you'd like to say to your fans personally that we haven't covered tonight?
Except I appreciate each and every one of them. I don't know what else to say.
Thanks for tuning in to the Music of Stillwater show tonight. You country and western fans, watch your newspaper, because sometime in the month of April we're going to feature Mo Bandy for an entire hour. Thanks for tuning in, and good night.